Let us not be lectured on how to keep the image of India abroad better. We are doing our job. You may please cooperate with us, but if you're criticizing, criticize us on sound logic.
When Nirmala Sitharaman became India's finance minister, a lot of people made up their minds instantly. She's not an economist, she won't be able to handle this economy. 5 years later, after a pandemic, global inflation, supply chain shocks, and wars abroad, India's economy did not collapse. In many ways, it held firm. So the question is not whether you like her politics. The real question is, were we wrong about her ability to run the economy? India has a habit of judging finance ministers before judging finance. We look for a certain image, an economist's vocabulary, a technocrat's polish, an elite global pedigree. When Sitharaman walked in, she did not perhaps fit that image for many. She didn't speak in equations. She didn't perform expertise on television. So the assumptions followed naturally. She would be managed by the system and not manage it instead. But history is rarely shaped by people who look the part. It is shaped by people who survive pressure. And pressure arrived immediately for Nirmala Sitharaman. By 2019, India's economy was already slowing down. Private investment was weak, the NBFC crisis had shaken credit markets, job creation was under stress, global growth was cooling down, and this matters because finance ministers don't start from zero. They inherit a certain momentum that is left behind for them to inherit, or the lack of it otherwise. Sitharaman's first challenge was not populism, it was confidence. And confidence in economics is rarely restored gently. In September 2019, the government announced a sharp corporate tax cut down to 22%. Markets were stunned. Critics were furious. It was criticized as a pro-corporate, anti-poor, trickle-down economics and all of these jargons that you may have heard. But step back and look at the intent of this. This was not about immediate consumption. It was about resetting India's competitiveness in the global market. Just to give you an analogy, if an economy is a machine that is overheating, you don't pour fuel into it. You fix the engine first. The tax cut was a signal. India was willing to sacrifice short-term political comfort for long-term investment credibility. It also told us something important about Sitharaman's style. She was willing to take unpopular decisions quite early on, so future budgets could afford to be boring. One of the least glamorous parts of her tenure has been the GST. No dramatic announcements, no sweeping redesigns, just endless negotiations with states, rate rationalizations, compliance tightening, and compensation agreements. GST is still not perfect, but it has come a long way from what GST 1.0 was when Arun Jaitley announced it. But under Nirmala Sitharaman, it has stabilized to a large extent. Collections became more predictable, leakages reduced by a lot, the center-state relationship did not collapse even under fiscal stress. This is the kind of governance that never trends, but it prevents systems from breaking. Then came COVID-19 pandemic, the moment that defines any finance minister around the world. The pressure was really enormous. Spend big, announce big, look more compassionate on television. Instead, Nirmala Sitharaman chose to do something less visible. Financial containment. The Atmanirbhar package was mocked for being too technical, too credit heavy, too accounting driven. Some of that criticism may have been fair, but here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody is telling you. In an economic freeze, liquidity matters more than the optics of whatever is being said and done. Credit guarantees, refinancing windows and MSME support kept these firms alive. Banks did not collapse overnight or over the years. The financial plumbing held together. It was not emotional economics, it was crisis engineering. And when the economy reopened after the pandemic ended, the structure was still standing very strong. Now, once the pandemic got done, a clear pattern emerged in Nirmala Sitharaman's budget presentations. Less populist sweetness, more structural nutrition, Capital expenditure rose steadily over the years. Infrastructure became the backbone of recovery. States were nudged, not coerced, to invest more. These budgets were not exciting, it may have been boring to a lot of people, but they were directional. And to give you one more example, some leaders try to win applause by sprinting every lap. Others pace themselves to finish the actual race because they know that the outcome matters more. Nirmala Sitharaman's budgets may frustrate a lot of people, too conservative for the left, too statist for libertarians. That usually means she is operating in uncomfortable middle where real governance actually happens in India. Perhaps among all her decisions, the most misunderstood part of her tenure is the industrial policy. PLIs are often dismissed as old school interventionism, but context actually matters. This is not 1990s. It is a world of fractured supply chains, geopolitical risks, and strategic manufacturing. India did not just open its doors, it guided capital towards certain sectors. PLIs were a bargaining tool, an invitation to global firms looking for alternatives to China, a nudge to domestic manufacturing, which is not perfect, which is not ideologically driven, but strategically timed, especially given the geopolitical wars that are going on around the world. This was not about choosing the market or the state, it was about using both of them. Finally, inflation did rise. Food prices hurt households, criticism was justified, but India avoided runaway spirals seen elsewhere. This wasn't because of genius, it was because of restraint, coordination, and political patience. Economic governance is not about brilliance, and especially it is not about panicking when something hits the roof. And for Nirmala Sitharaman, for all the criticism she actually attracts, she rarely panics. So why did all the early skepticism fail so badly, especially given how she has delivered the last 2 or 3 budgets? This is why. Because she was not trying to impress the television studios in Noida. She was trying to hold systems together. Her tenure is not flawless, most certainly. Fiscal deficits expanded, some welfare delivery gaps remain, implementation friction still exists, but that is a systemic problem. But judge the record honestly. Crisis has been managed without collapse. Investment sentiment has been restored gradually over the years. Manufacturing repositioned in policy has happened. Capex has been prioritized over giveaways very easily. And that is not just ideology into action, that is a lot of execution which has been thought over. Now, Nirmala Sitharaman or the likes of her may never become cult figures. She does not perform expertise, she doesn't narrativize herself, she doesn't chase applause, and in fact she has been criticized in the past so harshly, yet she did not respond to it. But finance ministers aren't remembered for poetry, they're remembered for what didn't break. When the hardest times arrived, the system held, and sometimes that's the highest form of competence. Let us know what you thought about this and whether you agree or disagree with Nirmala Sitharaman's policies over the years, and what you thought about India's 2026-27 budget that was recently presented in the comment section.